Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joseph and today I'm with
Matilda.
Okay, so today I am using off-camera flash outdoors because I'm mostly doing natural light shoots on my YouTube channel, but today I just want to introduce off-camera flash to you guys and show you how I go about doing it. So in theory, what I'm going to do first of all is to expose for the background and make sure it looks the way I want. So in terms of exposure, in terms of color, its richness and everything, I'm going to balance that with my camera settings. Afterwards, I'm going to move onto my strobe and I'm using a Godox 8600 and it's inside my Glow 36-inch octa box. That's going to be my main light. I'm also using just one light. When I first use the camera settings to get the background exposure the way I want, I'm going to introduce the flash to light her up, because when I'm doing that, exposing for the background, she's going to be really underexposed and I need light to light her up and then balance those two exposures to give me a decent image. So that's what this video is about. I'm going to show you when I start shooting how I'm testing and how I'm balancing those two light exposures, the one on her and then the one on the background. So stick to the end and leave a like if you enjoyed it or if you learned something new, and yeah, let's just start shooting. Okay, so first I am going to make sure I am getting the exposure where I want it. Currently my settings are 1/3200 on the shutter speed and 1.4 on aperture and ISO 100. Because I'm also shooting with a mirrorless camera, I can easily see my histogram to balance properly, but let's just assume I can't and then I want to take test frames to balance the light. So I'm taking a test, the first shot, and looking at it somewhat okay in terms of the background exposure, but Matilda, just move a little bit to your right. Too much. Okay, so even though I am looking at my background alone, I'm still looking at the light that's passing through the leaves and casting shadows on her face. I'm trying to avoid that a little bit. So the first shot I took, the background looks okay, but I just want to get a little brighter, so I'm dropping down to 1/2500 and take another test shot. Okay, now I think it looks bright enough. I like where it is, so I'm going to turn on the light on my strobe. Also making sure the trigger is on high speed sync because I'm at 1/2500. And I'll take another test shot. Okay, this exposure already looks good. I'm on 1/8 power on my 8600. So I think we're ready now to shoot. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, perfect. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Okay, so right now I'm framing like up to just above her knee, and I think I don't like the direction of the light. So I'm going to move it. So I just made a few changes because I could see that the natural light was casting some shadows on her. So I moved her back to make sure she's completely in shade. And taking another test. Yeah, I'm just gonna go up on my flash power a little bit. So currently at 1/4. And I'm also going a little lower so I can shoot slightly up. Okay, don't stiffen your hand so much. You just make it soft, place it around you. I meant your right hand. Yeah. Actually, that was nice. Yeah, right there. Okay. Oh yeah, that looks good. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I'm going to move a little close to her and get slightly tighter shots. Now I want to get a little bit of the water, so I'm shooting a little high up. I've not changed my lights, nothing, and it's looking really good. Exposure still looks fine. Okay, yeah, I love that, I love that. Beautiful. Okay, and chin up a bit. Yes. And rather hold the hair, so don't put that hand. So hold, yes, and be playing with it. So you can be running both hands through it. Yeah, like that. Now bring your eyes to me. Perfect. Chin up slightly. Yes. Yeah, keep that, keep that, keep that. Gorge. One more. Okay. Okay, so the same principles apply. The only thing is I've moved it away from the first location. We just turned left. So I'm using the sun as my second light. So I have my main light in front that is going to light it up, and I'm also using the sun behind it as my second light, just to serve as a rim light, you know, to make the shot a little bit more interesting. Alright guys, so I'm jumping onto my screen so we can summarize everything we've done. This is just to compensate for the bad audio in the actual video. So starting from the beginning, I'm using my test shots. So the very first test shot, as you can see, was underexposed. I mean, the subject was underexposed, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to get the exposure on the background alone exactly where I wanted to. And I started off at 1.4 on my aperture, ISO 100, and a shutter speed of 1/3200. And I'm doing this because I want to have a shallow depth. I started off by setting my aperture to 1.4, and also knowing that it was a very bright day, I lowered my ISO all the way to 100, so that the only thing now that I need to adjust to compensate for the ambient light is my shutter speed. But at 3200, I felt it was a little bit too dark, and I just wanted to brighten it up a little bit, so I went down to 2500. So I adjusted my shutter speed from 3200 to 2500, and that's pretty much what I used. So now that I have my background exposure exactly where I wanted it to be, the next thing I needed to do was to add my flash, or introduce my artificial light. Okay, so the next frame, as you can see, is just her now changing angles, doing different things. You can see that some of the shots, when she turns a lot, you can see right on her chest and her nose line. For example, we have some of the sunlight peeking through the leaves and then illuminating her nose and then her chest area. It can make your images look a little bit more natural, or when she turns away, you can see that we don't have that effect from the sunlight as much as some of the ones where her chest is turned towards, or more towards her right or camera left, if you're looking at it the way I am looking at it. But then again, you can see that her upper part is well illuminated, but getting below her knee is a little bit dark, and I wasn't too concerned about that because this is not supposed to be my final crop or my final frame. And you know, framing is also really important when you're taking pictures. So when I was taking these images, if I just quickly go into my camera raw, so I can crop and show you guys exactly what I was looking at when I was shooting the image, or thinking of for my final crop whilst I was taking the images. I'm just going to quickly press the crop tool and press and hold to bring up the options, and I'm going to select 4:5, and that is the ratio for Instagram. So I'm going to start off at the top corner and drag it all the way out and see. So this is where 4.5 as a ratio is giving me, but I can still go further and adjust it till I get the crop that I really need from this image. And something like this is just about okay for what I was imagining. And if I come to the second frame as well, I can do the same thing. So since the crop tool is still active, I'll just drag from the corner and now just reposition or adjust it a little bit to give me the frame I want. And something like this works pretty well. I'll go to the last image as well. I'm not going to be editing all of these ones, but I'm just showing you the crop that I was looking at when I was taking these images. I think this I might leave a little bit more headroom, or maybe just come down a tiny bit, something like that. And also concerning the exposure issue I was talking about, so this is the final crop. Okay, if I just go through, you can see that now that we've accepted the crop dimensions, it's looking a little bit more intimate, it's looking a little bit more, I mean, the crop looks perfect to me at this point. But now the exposure issues I was talking about, we can easily fix them with the gradient and radial tools inside Camera Raw. So I'm going to start with the gradients. I'm not going to do it for all the images, I'm just going to do it on this particular image just so you have an idea of how it works. So I'm just going to quickly drag this up somewhere about here, and what I want to do is open up the shadows and also increase the exposure around there just a tiny bit, and maybe just boost the contrast just a little bit as well. If I quickly press P to show you before and after, you can see that we've been able to open up the exposure down below, so it's looking a little bit more even. I'm going to use a radial one to target her face. So when I click and drag that out, it looks like there's some settings in there already. So let me just double click on them to reset the figures. And I'll start. So I'm going to start off by opening up the shadows a tiny bit and also increase the exposure a little bit as well, and add some contrast, and maybe increase my blacks just a tiny bit and dehaze it a little, maybe +1. All right, so again, if I go back and do P, you can see before these exposure changes and after the exposure changes. So I'm just going to press done, and it's going to apply all these settings and it's going to add it to the preview. So now we can see our final crop for all three images is looking really intense. You can see the exposure on the first image on the left, which is this one, looks really good. Now the same thing when I did the close-ups, they're looking a little bit underexposed, but I can again just go into Camera Raw, increase exposure, maybe bring my highlights down, increase contrast a tiny bit, reduce the vibrance, and maybe reduce saturation as well, increase my dehaze, increase contrast maybe a little bit more. And here's a before and after, and you can see it's looking really nice. Just simple tweaks inside of Camera Raw, and we're done. So now I'm going to the second set where I use the sun as my backlight. I forgot to show you when I was building the shot, but this frame, the flash didn't go off, and so you're seeing the exposure without flash. The camera settings are 1.4, 1/4000, and ISO 100. You can see that the light from the sun is really lighting up her hair, her arm, all the way down, and it's looking really nice. And when I complement it with my flash, it gives us a really nice exposure that really works well. If I just quickly go into my Camera Raw again, I just want to recover some of the details in here. So you can see once it's not peaking up here, I can always recover that. So I can just click up here and then drag it down a little bit, in case you didn't know. Okay, so let me start again. In case you want to target certain areas here inside, let me reset that. Camera Raw, you don't always need to be moving these sliders, okay? And that's a little trick. You can just move into your histogram, and then when the mouse turns into this icon, you can easily just drag that section. So if I move it down, you can see that it's moving the white. So it's going to show you what it's moving, and you can see the slider, the white slider is what is moving left and right. Okay, so if I just quickly undo that and start again, all I want to do is just target the whites and then just bring them down a little bit, just like that. And then maybe my highlights also, I can just bring them down a little bit as well. You can see that we're bringing back some of the detail that looked like they were lost in this image. So if I do it before and after, you can see we've been able to retain some of the information in the highlights. So I can just increase contrast, maybe increase my blacks a little bit. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to do an editing of these images, and I'll go right on to do that. If I have about 20 requests to see how I'm going to edit these images. Maybe I'll put a poll inside my community tab. I think I'll do that, yeah. And you can leave a comment or vote, and then I'll be doing the editing of these images. So yeah, let's go to Joseph on set for him to sign off, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. You've seen how I use the strobe as my only light source to light the frame, and also use the sun as my second light. And if you found this video helpful, leave a like, leave a comment down below. If you had any issues, if you didn't understand anything, ask in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to answer. I hope you had fun.
I did have a lot of fun.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe!